Digital inclusion is no longer optional. With new regulations like the EU Accessibility Act, accessible design is now a requirement across industries and regions. The A4Q Certified Professional Digital Accessibility Certification equips you with practical skills to design and build digital experiences that include everyone. From WC, AG guidelines, and assistive tools to inclusive design, thinking, and accessibility testing, gain the knowledge to make a real impact. Learn, create, include. Get certified in digital accessibility.
Hello and welcome back to another session of A4Q Testing Summit. My name is Atifa Amlashi and I'm your host for this session. Here I have Florian Fieber with me. Florian is a senior consultant, a product strategist, and a recognized expert in software quality. Since 2022, Florian is German Testing Board President. Another opportunity for him to contribute actively in the advancement of software quality. Welcome, Florian.
Thank you, Atifa. Good to be here.
From artificial to collaborative intelligence in software testing. It's the topic of Florian's talk for today. He's exploring why testing becomes more important in the age of AI and why the human role still matters. Sounds exciting. Florian, stage is yours.
So thank you very much again, Atifa, for the kind introduction. Also good to be here again on this great summit. As you already said, I'd like to talk about the human aspect in testing and AI. Is it all artificial? Is it all human, or is it maybe something in between? So what's the best thing to have a collaboration in this age? So as I said, from artificial to collaborative intelligence in software testing. Before I start, I'd like to add some more information on myself. So you already pointed out, I've been an expert in the field of software testing now, or at least I consider myself as an expert for almost 20 years now. I'm working with Test Solutions, which is a big testing service provider in the German speaking market. Also worldwide, I'm responsible for test strategies, test maturity assessments for strategic consultants to our clients. But I'm also responsible for the AI transformation and AI enablement of our product portfolio. So I've been working in that field now for a couple of years. And also I'm with the German Testing Board and ISTQB and serving there with the advanced and of the certified tester portfolio. So if we look back to 2024, the new role in 2024 was a prompt engineer. So everybody wanted to become a prompt engineer because you could earn a lot of money. It was quite new. In 2025, the new role to be was the wipe coder. So at least it was the advent of wipe coding, and with that, this new role. So the question is, what's the role this year in 2026? So if I follow to my LinkedIn account, it's this great role of wipe code cleanup specialist. So which is, of course, kind of funny, but also depicts maybe the challenge we have, not only with wipe coding, but also with wipe coding and the question of what quality can we expect with such changes in software development. And overall, of course, always the question, will AI take over my job? Is there still place for humans, or is this the last event where we sit together, listen to each other, work together as humans, or will there only be agents working together in the future? So if we think into the field of AI and software testing, we typically see at least two different dimensions. So the first one is to see the AI as a test object. So we call that testing of AI. We have other types of systems than we used to have in the past. So they are not deterministic, they are probabilistic, they behave differently than we are used to that. So we have to change, of course, the way, or probably we have to change the way of how we test such systems. So this is testing of AI. The second dimension we typically have a look at, and which probably has the biggest impact, at least at the moment, or for the last months or 1 or 2 years, is testing with AI. So as all other disciplines also have challenges with using AI-enabled tools, Gen AI, LLMs, and whatever is there around for their daily work. Of course, we also can do that in testing to enhance, to augment, to support our testing activities. So we can get more productive, we can be more fast, and so on. So this is testing with AI. Not only with vibe coding, but that was a strong driver for that. I would consider a third pillar here, which is a challenge for us in that field, and it's testing of AI-generated test objects. So what we more and more see now is that we get a lot of code, a lot of systems, a lot of test objects that are fully or partially generated with the help of AI. So this is also a new challenge we have as testers. In the first place, we could say, okay, there's no difference to the past because this is just a test object. The only difference it's being generated. It's not being programmed by a human, but it's different because the speed is much higher velocity, a lot of code is being generated, and a lot of at least challenges we see with such changes in the way of how we develop software. So I'd like to shed light on these aspects and what that means for our field, for our discipline, with a focus on this third pillar. So what does that mean if we have more and more AI-generated test objects? So typically, before we start, or when we start talking about AI in software testing, of course, we say AI can do a lot. It can help in many different fields. As I said, it can take over tasks we would have not been able to do them otherwise. We can be much faster. We can very easily and quickly develop test ideas, test cases, and things like that. But that's actually not the point I want to make today. So that's why I added here a placeholder. So add your own example. Each of you have great examples. All of you have learned in the last 2 or 3 years what are great examples, what are good use cases of how to use AI in your job. And you probably have more and more and more, but that's not the point I want to make today, because to generalize that, of course, we can make testing faster, broader, higher coverage. We can do things we would not have done otherwise. So it's not here to ask ourselves, should we use AI or shouldn't we use it, because it's here and it's a far too powerful tool not to use. So we have to find the best way to cope with it and best include it in our daily work. So it can do a lot, but not everything. Yeah. So I have an example here for you. So when I asked ChatGPT with this question, so complete the following sentence with exactly one word. The most important skill of a software tester is. So ChatGPT responded to me, said accuracy. I repeated the question a second time and I get the answer, defect finding. I repeat the same question a third time and I get the answer, precision. So I can repeat this over and over, and you already see where this is going to, right? So with every time I repeat the question, I get a different answer. So I did that. I was a bit bored. I did that 100 times. So here you see validation, which was also already the fourth answer. So I did some statistics. So out of 100 answers, I got 16 different ones. Yeah? So the question here is, of course, what is now right or wrong? What is correct? Because the question I ask can only have one answer. If I ask for the most important, there can only be one answer. So this kind of behavior is different, maybe, than we are used to it. So that was ChatGPT, and to be honest, I already did this experiment a couple of time ago, so I repeated it just recently with Claude, and you get the same behavior. You all know that we have probabilistic behavior with large language models, that there is maybe something we can adjust with the temperature, and that so we can better rely or have higher or lower probabilities, but that's not the point. The point is that I get different results, different answers every time I use this model. So we have to cope with that. Another example, so this is an image I used to depict actually a talk I gave. So I asked DALL-E in that case to depict the topic of human testers in the age of AI, and this is what I got as a result. So here, everybody on this image is pregnant, which is apparently not true. I mean, apparently the model has been hallucinating. So everybody's pregnant, the man, the boy, the young man, the older man, probably even the robots are pregnant, which is apparently and obviously a hallucination of that tool. So for us, this is quite easy to spot and to detect that here's something wrong. But if we now transfer this to our daily work, what does that mean if we use such technologies for our work? How can we tell, how can we spot if a result of a tool is correct or not correct, or good enough or not good enough for our work? And in reality, this might be, of course, much more tricky. So what's happening at the moment? If we look at the recent World Quality Report, we see interesting figures. So one, for example, is that there's a growing, at least there are some companies that already use Gen AI company-wide. But here in this report, we have some 43%. There are other reports where the numbers are even higher. So what we also observe is many companies are stuck in the experimentation phase, or don't get over the POC phase, and don't really find a real positive ROI for using Gen AI in their work. And what also is really interesting, the number is low, but it has been increasing since the last time of the report. So the so-called non-adopters number even grew. So meaning that companies get more skeptical about using AI in general, Gen AI in particular, in their organizations. And typical reasons for that are quality, security issues, data protections, and things like that. So that's one interesting finding. And another finding I have here is that there's a big difference between the observations of the impact of AI in different areas in software development. Because what we, for example, see is that the implementation time of code is much, much, much faster now. So here in this study, it's 50% or even more. You will find a lot of other studies showing same numbers, even higher, some lower, but they all go in the same direction. So we really, really speed up implementation. If we look deeper, this is typically for boilerplate code, for routine code, and things like that. The interesting thing is that the total time spent for developing software decreases. So it's 20% slower than it was compared to the time before without using Gen AI. And another figure showing that more and more defects are being introduced into the code. The more AI is used to generate code, the more defects are being introduced in the code. And so the interesting part here is that, of course, we get much faster at some points, especially with implementing, with coding. But software is more than just a bunch of lines of codes or generating code. It's also has to do with humans, about problem understanding, maybe also testing, quality assurance, and so on. So the thing here is, on the one side, we get much faster with implementation, but on the other side, we can get slower because there is much more defects being introduced into the code. So the question here is, if we run into a new code quality crisis, as I just said, more defects are being introduced, and studies we see here is that not only more defects are being introduced, so here in this study it's 70%, it's even worse because the defects are even more critical, and moreover, more security defects are being introduced into the code compared to code being traditionally implemented by humans. So we see, of course, a significant increase in productivity, but also in defects. And I think the validation of this AI-generated output becomes much, much more essential, even more essential than it already was in the past. The challenge we see here is that there is at least some risk of shift right, because if we wait till some code is generated and maybe integrated into a solution that is can be tested or end-to-end tested by some testers, so maybe we wait too long to find those defects. So this is at least a big risk here. And the question is, do we buy now and pay later? So maybe you all know this meme here that's around. So in the old days, we had some time for coding and some portion for testing. Now we really speed up the coding time from 2 hours to 5 minutes, but the debugging part and the testing part will be much longer. So in total, the sum of all the work together is even higher than lower. Another mind game I want to have a minute for to talk with you is, so who do we want to replace with AI? So if we think of a software development approach, sorry, that was too fast. If we think of a software development approach, a life cycle, so we typically follow the phases. We first have to understand the problem, describe the problem. We often call that maybe requirements engineering. Then we have to find a solution and design that solution. We can call that maybe architecture work. Then we have the development part or the coding part, the implementation part. So we have to implement the solution. And we also have to test and validate and check the solution before we go live. And this is not necessarily a sequential approach. It can be an iterative approach, but we typically follow these phases, and typically or often we also have different roles. Sometimes they are integrated, sometimes not. And the question is now, if I would ask you if you can or have to replace 3 out of 4 of these activities by AI. So which of these activities would you like or do you think is a good idea to fully replace with AI? I think not only myself, probably most of you, at least many testers, but not only testers, would think, okay, maybe replacing every activity with AI and also testing is not a good idea. It at least feels not right. We should not do that. So at least from the gut feeling, I think we see here that this is the last, can be the last line of defense, where of course humans should stay in the loop and not be fully replaced by AI. So I would argue here that in the age of AI, testing is becoming the central quality authority. I think the future belongs to testers because it will become more and more important and crucial for good software, for software development, for high quality software. So what we can observe is that there's a fundamental change in our role. So we see that there's a shift from tactical knowledge to strategic knowledge, from a how to a why. What do I mean with that? So on the how level, we typically have the very tactical knowledge, the product knowledge. So it's scripting, generating test ideas, it's routine activities, routine checks. It can be scripting, automation scripts for test automation, test data generation, and things like that. Another layer is the why layer. It's the strategic layer. It's the problem understanding. It's risk analysis, understanding risks. It's understanding, developing, maintaining test strategies. It has to do with stakeholders, stakeholder management, and communication, collaboration together with stakeholders. And in between, there's probably not only one, there are probably more layers, but that's not the point. But there are layers in between, and it could be the what maybe as an intermediate layer between these two. So what is changing now with the help or with the higher usage of AI and Gen AI in testing, the jobs we have, the tasks we have to perform, they move from this tactical layer to the strategic layer. Yeah. So this tactic layer, this is a perfect spot or perfect tasks or activities that can be taken over by AI. I don't say here AI fully AI. I say AI in charge. So here is maybe the AI, the pilot, and the human is the co-pilot, maybe. But on the other side, here's the human in charge. So these are typical activities that can be and should be taken over by humans. And the sweet spot here in the sense of collaboration is this part in the middle, where I see the human and AI collaboration, where they best work together, where I have an AI augmentation of my testing activities, for example, and I had a best combination. But the important part is there are different levels of autonomy. It's not one solution or one size fits all. I have different levels where I have more human and less AI. I have other parts where I have most of the things being done by AI and generated, and maybe just a small portion of human in the loop. So this, of course, sounds great, right? I mean, we all move to this strategic level and everybody wants to be a senior and advising others in doing things. So this, of course, sounds very good. The AI is the junior and the human is the senior. But we will run into a fundamental problem with that. And I think we already are running into this challenge, at least, so that we see more and more or less juniors are being hired in the companies, because we see typical junior activities could be taken over by AI, and the human is just in the role of a senior. But the point is here, how do you become a senior without being a junior before? This is, at the moment, it's okay-ish, right? But if we forward 5 years or 10 years, where do all the seniors come from if they are not being educated, if they did not start as juniors? So the seniors in 10 years are the juniors today, and if there are no juniors, we will have a fundamental problem in 5 to 10 years. So we really have to be careful with that. So that's one warning, one challenge maybe with that. And another thing is, which I personally find very crucial. So we tell this story and everybody tells this story. This is great. We don't have to be all this repetitive tasks. We all will be seniors and advisors and managing and orchestrating things and so on. But maybe the question is, not everybody wants to do this kind of work. Maybe some people feel comfortable with what they do. Maybe, for example, software developers have not been waiting all of their life for AI to take over their job and to generate code for them. Maybe people love what they do, and moreover, And this is what, of course, this meme wants to depict here. It's not so easy to change a role for people from a very tactical to an operational level. And here, as we can see, I cannot just tell the horse that from tomorrow on, it will have to evaluate the tractor output. Okay, so this will not work. And again, here we have to think about how to educate people, how to upskill people, how to prepare for these challenges in the age of AI. One important part also is, if we think of everything AI, everything is being generated or not, I think what we often forget is that software is, as I already said, is much, much more than just some lines of code. Software is an element in social systems, so it definitely does not work without humans, right? So software is more than just code, meaning testing is much more than automation. You cannot automate everything. You should not automate everything. It's not possible to automate everything because we also have at least some, let's call them social aspects, some glue code between the lines of code. So that means that we need human understanding for the problem understanding. We need critical thinking. We need our intuition and empathy. We need context understanding to understand, okay, which problem is being solved. What does that mean in our context? We have to think around the corner. We have to use our common sense. And these are all typical skills of humans, but not of AI systems. Yeah. So this is a very crucial and important part a human can bring here into the game, meaning that there's a high value of human testers. I don't mean manual testers. I mean human testers being a complementary part to the AI as a tester. So only humans can really help and solve the tester record problem, for example. Understand, okay, what's the intended use of this software? So only a human can assess on that, for example. We have quality criteria where we need humans thinking of understandability, also usability and accessibility and transparency, freedom of bias, ethical aspects, and all of these things. And also the exploration part is a very human-centered activity where humans bring a high value add in what they do. So together we develop software typically for humans, and only humans can ultimately judge what is suitable for them. So we cannot and should not take them out of the loop. So to the end, I would like to have a look at the 3 pillars again. So what does that mean for you, for the future? What's the challenge here? What are the new challenges, and how can you best prepare for these challenges? So if we start with, we have a new test object. There's a new kid on the block, so to say. This new test object, it's definitely a black box, but some also call it a magic box. So we have no clue, no idea what's happening inside this magic box. It's even worse than it was in the past with just having a black box, right? And why does that? Do we have that situation? It's a non-deterministic behavior, probabilistic behavior. There's a high tester record problem, meaning to understand what are expected results is the behavior of our system as it is expected. So what do we expect if there is no right specification? For example, how can we assess whether such a system is working in a meaningful way? Or let's say, take as an example a chatbot that is responding to a question. So how can we be sure that this response of a chatbot is good or not good? So there's no longer maybe a correct or a true or false, but rather probabilities. It's rather correct or rather not correct. What we also see is that there is emergent behavior or emergent behavior of failures, so that failures only come over time by using such systems. And this is, among other reasons, because the quality now is not anymore in the code, necessarily, but in the data being used, both the training data, but also the data the system is taken into account while it's working or in operations. We have new and other quality criteria, as I already mentioned, and with that we have more or other or more important test techniques. They are not all new, but some of them have higher demand now or importance than they had in the past. So, for example, metamorphic testing, back-to-back testing, and so on. So what should you do as a tester to best prepare here? I would recommend you understand what is different between such an AI system or AI-based systems compared to traditional systems. So there are differences like this probabilistic behavior I just mentioned, but there's also a big portion where there are similarities. It's still a software system. So not everything is completely new. We do not have to reinvent the wheel at every part in this chain. Yeah. Ideally, as you have always been doing, build up understanding about your test object, open the black box, have a look inside, how is it working, get experience with it, learn about artificial intelligence in general, about machine learning, about generative AI, upskill yourself in data literacy, and things like that. Get an idea of what is AI quality. If someone asks you, is this chatbot good or bad? So how can you assess that? Not from your gut feeling, but what are good quality criteria you can take into account? What are good metrics you can use to measure quality of such systems, and in total maintain your critical thinking, which will become even more important, I would say, than it has always been. So there are a lot of good resources around. There's a great training from the ISTQB, the Certified Tester AI testing. This can be all great entry points, for example, to upskill yourself in that field. So if we have a look at the second part, testing with AI, so what are the challenges here? That we now introduce this non-deterministic behavior also in our tool chain, also in our pipelines. We have with these tools also hallucinations. We just have seen this example from this picture being generated, but there are also hallucinations, of course, in text being generated. So we will have this challenge, for example, if you think of test data, test cases, test ideas being generated, for example. We just seen this task shift. So the whole discipline of software testing will fundamentally change from a rather, or at least the more tactical parts will move to more strategic parts. So this is definitely changing in the roles. You should prepare for that. We will be much faster in what we do. We will have a much higher velocity and speed in software development. It will increase even more. So we will see that there will be even shorter release cycles. There's a challenge of the automation bias. Don't blindly trust in what the machine says. We already know this challenge from automation in general. And other examples. So I don't want to go into all these examples here now, but these are, I would say, the challenges we have here. So before we have a look at how to prepare, there's a quote. I have no idea about testing thanks to AI. However, it now works fine without me. So who said that? Of course, nobody ever said that. I've seen nobody ever saying, I have no idea about what I'm doing here, but now with the help of ChatGPT or Claude, I'm really confident in what I'm doing. The opposite is true. So why did I make up this quote here? Because don't unlearn. Use your skills, use your critical thinking, maintain your skill set of software testing. So that's I would say, probably the most important advice someone can give you. Don't unlearn. Don't externalize your thinking to the machine. You are the one who is thinking, and you augment your thinking with a machine. don't outsource your thinking to the machine. That's the worst thing you can do for your personal development. Always stay in the driver's seat. You are the pilot and not the machine is the pilot. Yeah. So don't let the machine use you. Use it where it makes sense. If you don't have a problem, if you don't know what to use, what to do, don't use AI for it. You first have to know what you are doing, and then you can really use it, and then you will have an efficiency booster, definitely. Find the right balance, right? As I said, it's not black or white. It's not either Gen AI or not Gen AI. It's finding the right balance. Sometimes there are tasks that can be highly automated and generated with 99% Gen AI and 1% human in the loop. Sometimes there will be other situations. So find here the right balance. Yeah, and coming to the last pillar here, the AI-generated test object. What are the challenges here? It's faster, more code in a shorter, even shorter time. So we had this picture of the wave before. So there's a big wave of code coming to us or approaching us. And so what do we do with that? Yeah, so there will be a problem, and we have to find an answer, not to become a too small bottleneck, maybe at that point. Yeah. And that's a big challenge, I would say. Another challenge is the more software is being generated, the more we lose understanding about what is the code intended to do. So software development itself will become a black box. No one can maybe at some point tell you why this system is working like it is. Why it is being constructed like that, because it has mainly been generated. And all of this know-how and information is very important to assess some system. The more we lose this information, the higher the risks might get. Don't do the mistake to think, okay, it looks good, then it is good. Apparent quality is not real quality, or not necessarily quality. If it looks good or looks professional, it does not have something to do necessarily with real quality. What we also will see is that we have shifting defect types. So there will be probably less typos. So of course, a Gen AI system can generate quite good code from a syntactic perspective, but not necessarily from a semantic perspective. So we will have other defects, and these defects will even be worse, as we have seen before. So they will be more on a logical level. They will be maybe harder to detect, and the impact of these defects might be even harder than it used to be in the past. So maybe testing again will become the last line of defense in software development. We'll see. So what should you do? Again, don't unlearn. That's my best advice to you today. Get your tester job done. That's what you are there for. You are here for not saying, oh, everything is perfect, I fully trust everything. You are skeptical. You apply your critical thinking. You say, okay, I have to assess on the risks. Is there some risk with using this product? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, then maybe you should start testing and maintain and do what you always did as a good tester. This is also an important job for us as testers, I would say, also to make it understandable, also to be an ambassador for quality, also to talk to your stakeholders, to your product owners, maybe to the developers and your other peers, why testing is now probably even more important than it ideally already was in the past. So the thing here is, some things will change. Your toolbox of testing will maintain, but it will, on the other side, fundamentally transform. So there's a big transformation in our discipline. Some things will change, some things will remain. The thing here is, I would say, people are not being replaced, or not humans are being replaced, but certain human skills will be replaced. So if you see, or if you have mainly skills on this tactical level, on this very operational level, very much concrete scripting know-how and things like that, that's very highly exposed to being taken over by an AI, whereas if you have more skills on the strategic level, on the managerial level, and so on, there's a less exposure, at least, and better chance, I would say, to have a good job also in the future. So for me, that means, to sum it up, the last 3 points here: rethink quality. What we will see is that AI will create code faster, but not necessarily better. We might get more defects. More code means more defects, and not necessarily speed is what we deliver. That has never been the advantages of testing, right? We all know that if we want to be faster, you might have less quality. So you always have to adjust between these dimensions, right? So the critical questioning here is the more important part, and not the question whether testing is fast or not fast. We have to elevate the human role, as I said, from the tactical how to the strategic why. Critical thinking is important. That cannot be automated. That must remain human. And testing will become even more important. That's at least my hypothesis, and I'm pretty sure that this will happen in the future. Use it wisely. It's a tool. It's a very powerful tool. That's true. We need humans in the loop. We need human judgment, and we need context. Collaborate, don't delegate, don't outsource your testing. So the future, I would say, is not artificial, it's collaborative. So to answer the question in the beginning, AI will not take my job and also not your job. I'm really sure we will sit here together also in 1 year and in 5 years. If we upskill, if we adjust, if we transform to this new challenges, then I would say there's a bright future for all software testers among us. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here. I hope you got some nice ideas, some impulses. If you have some questions, ask them now or contact me later on each of these channels. I'm happy to assist you. So thank you very much. I'm done, Atefe.
Thank you very much, Florian, for this insightful session. It was a great reminder that AI may absolutely is changing the way we test but human judgment, critical thinking, and collaboration still remain the center of the software quality. I see that we have some questions here. Yeah. How do you qualify junior testers today when AI is taking over the operational tasks that traditionally built their experience?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, it's easy to say we have to be careful. We need juniors to develop them into seniors, but of course the question is, okay, how can we make sure to do that? So at least in some areas in the industry, the opposite is happening at the moment. So I'm a bit afraid that at least in these parts, it's learning with pain, so that we will have a big gap in the future. So I think this is a strategic decision a company has to make to also have junior roles, also to have these roles available in their career path, and it has to be, I think, a conscious decision to develop people from juniors to seniors. Yeah.
So then in practice, how do you decide which task to hand over to AI and which task might stay with human?
So I think the first thing is maybe, as I said, it's not binary completely or either or, to say, okay, this is all AI, this is all humans. So maybe there are some layers in between. Maybe it's fully AI, maybe it's fully human, maybe it's half-half, maybe there are some layers in between. But I think what you should have is some decision criteria where you say, okay, these are, let's say, routine tasks, very deterministic tasks. They can easily be delegated, where I'm pretty sure that a agent, for example, can handle that properly. I don't need a human in the loop there. On the other side, if there is a lot of context know-how needed, empathy, human judgment, for example, then that would be decision criteria to say, okay, I should at least have a human in the loop here, or maybe AI in the loop, and not the other way around. So the key question always is, do you still understand what the AI is doing, and what are the best parts there where it can help you?
Thank you. The next question that we have, you mentioned don't unlearn. It sounds cool.
Yes.
But how realistic is that?
Yeah, that's similar to the junior question, I would say. It's so easy to unlearn, because we are lazy people, so we constantly unlearn things. When we drive cars, I think we more and more unlearn to drive a car from A to B without a navigation system, without any assistance systems. We unlearn to steer a car on track and not steer it to the right or to the left, and I find another city with the help of a navigation system. And all of these things apparently also happen with now these systems, but on steroids. So there's a big challenge, and I don't know what the silver bullet here is to prevent this. At least for me, for myself, I would suggest to everybody, always be conscious about what you are doing, what you're outsourcing. Try to do things without the help of some assistance tools, assistance systems. Drive your car without your navigation system. Perform some tasks without the help of AI. Start to do things with your brain, but not with Claude, maybe. So I think we really need practices and routines in our daily work to prevent this. It's training. It's like going to the gym. I would say it's similar. We have to constantly train our brains.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Florian. So I hope if you like Florian's presentation, please vote for Florian. Go to our website and then vote for him for this talk. And at the same time, we have the other session in German, in French, and English in parallel. So if you missed any presentation, you can always come back to the program or go to our YouTube channel and see the presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Atifa.
Bye.
Bye.
Agile teams move fast, but quality must move faster. The ISTQB Certified Tester Advanced Level Agile Tester prepares professionals to lead quality in modern Agile environments. This certification goes beyond sprint testing. It focuses on Agile test strategy, balanced coverage across the testing quadrants, exploratory testing mastery, and meaningful metrics for continuous improvement. From shift-left practices to risk-based regression in CI/CD, CTAL-AT equips you with advanced expertise for complex Agile ecosystems. If you're ready to lead quality in Agile delivery, explore the syllabus, start your preparation, advance to ISTQB CTAL-AT.